workshop is it? It's your workshop?
Mine and Alan. I mean, it's the board's workshop, but Alan and I are mainly presenting.
Hers is first, then mine.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Alan, we ready to start? Both Alans. Okay, we'll get started with the first of two workshops, and Miss Arts will let you kick this first one off.
Okay. Thank you to everyone who's here. And I'd also like to thank some other people. I thank Doug Jones and Wakulla County Coalition for Youth for all the background work, the groundwork they did in getting our survey data and so forth. And preparing some of these drawings that we're going to look at today. Alan Wise has been working real hard. We have two architects, Bill and Kim Argus, who have been volunteering their professional time. Hugh MacArthur, a landscape architect, and Elena Meyer, a interior designer, have also volunteered to be part of the design team, although we haven't put them to work yet. We also had, and I really want to acknowledge these people, we had John Melton, an arborist, David Roddenberry, who's president of our Native Plant Society chapter here, and Jeannie Broadhead, who are president of the Iris Garden Club, have spent a number of days measuring and marking trees on this 22-acre site. They have identified 225 trees that are healthy and worthy of being preserved, and they've saved our county money by doing a tree survey for us. So, you know, and I think for us to move forward, there's going to need to be a lot of kind of volunteer effort like that. So, anyway, I just wanted to thank all those folks. The focus in the workshop item, I described how we've got sort of three planning efforts going on simultaneously. We've got a long-range planning effort, which is what do we want this 22-acre site to build out to be, you know, in the distant future. 30, 50 years from now, what do we want to see on this site? And that's the main focus of today's workshop. We also happen to have some money that we got through a legislative appropriation and some other funds that have been saved up for parks and rec and such, that the legislative appropriation needs to be spent by September of 2013. So if we're going to have to make some decisions in the near future about how we're going to spend that money, and we're going to start to get into that in today's workshop. And then the other is the other planning activity is the whole RFP that we just issued and have evaluated our respondent. And that's to what can we start offering on the site now without doing anything to it. So, and we aren't going to talk about that at this workshop. Now, the last thing I want to do is build a community center or create a community center that nobody uses. So it's really important to make sure we're giving citizens what they want and need. And a lot of effort's been put into some surveys, and I'm just going to go through some of the high points. Attachment 3 is the community survey that was conducted with 690 people responded, 692 I guess. And item 13 is to me one of the key questions, and that's on page 4 of 11 in the survey. Okay.
Item what?
It's page 4 of 11, question 18.
Okay.
Okay, and this is asking people what kinds of activities, facilities would you like to see added to the 22-acre community center site. And the most popular the one that got yes, definitely, from 84% of the people who answered this question was a swimming pool. So that was the clear top preference. The next, at 68%, was, well, there was kind of a tie, a walking exercise trail and a gymnasium. They were both tied at about 68%. Then we had...
Ms. Arth, wasn't the playground?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Playground, 80%. That was the second. So swimming pool, 84%, playground, 80%, walking, exercise trail, and gymnasium each at 68%, and then the outdoor basketball courts at 59%. So that one single item, I think we need to pay a lot of attention to. But there's lots of other information in here. About half the respondents were interested in having a daycare facility at the community center. A lot of people were willing to pay some kind of a membership fee. On page 3, a third were willing to pay $25, another third $50. And then a large majority were willing to pay additional fees for special programs led by special or qualified instructors. There was interest in after-school activities, particularly tutoring and homework help. Some interest in cake decorating and painting classes. There was interest in community theater and branch library. A lot of interest in having fitness type activities and facilities with exercise machines and aerobics topping that list. There was some interest in computer games and board games, cooking classes, photography, gardening, gymnastics, cheerleading, billiards and ping pong, yoga, karate, taekwondo, and tai chi. So those were, some of the top indicated preferences. We knew that this was filled out by a lot of parents, and we wanted to find out what kids wanted, middle and high school students in particular. So we got a group of student leaders at the high school to develop their own questionnaire, and that was filled out by 370 middle and high school students. They had a simpler form and added some new options, but for outdoor activities, top of the list again was swimming pool. Next, outdoor basketball courts, and third was an open field area.
I wonder what teenagers, all of the responses on the indoor activity was far and away the biggest answer. I wonder what they wrote.
Well, it wasn't so much, and I've tried to get that data. There were a whole lot of other choices, and so this just sums up. Every other item had less than indoor track, and it was just the other 20 things that they could have picked just got kind of lumped together. And each student picked 3 things, so I wouldn't be too concerned that all other is the largest. And their indoor activities, bowling was what they indicated. And we had heard that a lot of our kids drive up to Tallahassee to use the bowling lanes up there. Next was a weightlifting room, and then teen dances. So those were at the top of the list for middle and high school students. So we took that information plus lots of input from the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth. This is a coalition that has pretty much everybody who works with, cares about kids in some way involved, from the schools to the healthcare community, churches, social service agencies and such. And there were lots, so we got input from 4-H and we got input from some of those groups as well. And sent all of that information to our architect to see what he would come up with. And if you look in your packet, it's the first drawing. It's the one right after the use survey. That was his first effort. And then we used that to get more feedback from the Y, from WCCY members, from planning staff, and then we came up with the hot off the press drafts 2A and B, which I'm going to let Alan walk you through. What I really want to do is these drawings that are in color here. I want you to really think about what's not on here that you think should be, or what doesn't make sense in terms of where it's located. I want to remind you that on the back, the northern edge is residential. So one of the things we were trying to be cognizant of is there are people who live back there and probably don't want to hear a lot of noise too close to their houses, whether it's kids screaming at a pool or whether it's basketballs bouncing on asphalt or whatever. So there are also a lot of trees. Most of the trees are in the back portion, but then on the west and southern side is road, so you've got to be careful about what you're putting close to the street too. So anyway, Alan, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can walk people through the drawings.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the time to bring this to you. I know you guys have a lot going on, but this is something we've been excited about and we've had going on for a little while. As Ms. Art said, we've got a lot of community input and we hope to continue to get community input. We've taken this plan through a couple of different iterations. Obviously, we don't have enough space to put everything on there that people have requested, but as we're going through this, the first phase was just to put something on paper and let people comment. We had a lot of good data from the surveys and from the community organizations that have been a strong part of this throughout the entire process, and so we started with that, received comments, and also the Y has been involved with this project for, I think, probably close to a couple years, but we've kind of shifted things around a little bit. The second and third plans that we recently came up with don't have a lot of variation. The main variation is an enclosed lobby, a building that actually connects the back of the existing buildings with the front of the proposed building. At full build out, we anticipate the back of the existing buildings to be kind of the main reception point. Obviously, everything that we're showing and doing right now is completely fluid. Throughout this whole process, I'm available to answer any questions, and we can move things around.
Do you have your big drawing that you can? Is there a way to?
I can set it up right here for you.
I think. Yeah.
And the main difference is this area right here between the two most recent drawings.
Does he need to be by the mic?
To talk, yes, he should be on the mic.
Okay, then maybe put that by you if you're gonna refer to it. I think we can see it from over there.
The walking trail obviously is something that we know from driving down Crawfordville Highway that the residents of this community use a lot. That's something that we would strongly recommend to include as a part of this. The one that we've shown here is about 4,000 linear feet, a little bit less than a mile. What we propose for that is an asphalt surface it's about 8 feet wide, so it can accompany rollerbladers, skaters, joggers, walkers, baby carriages, everything, bicycles, anything that anybody wants to drive down it. The Frisbee Park is something that we believe would get a good bit of use. It's fairly inexpensive to create, and it can double as like a natural area. The pools that we've shown here are similar to the aquatic facility off John Knox Road in Tallahassee, Truesdale, where you have a children's, like a wading pool, and then an Olympic-size lap pool. Adjacent to those pools, you see a restroom and locker room that would serve the people coming and going from the pool area that may be wet. You wouldn't want in an interior restroom. We have an area blocked out for both toddler and youth playgrounds. Obviously, the sky's the limit when it comes to playground equipment, but the surveys that we received made it apparent that it's important for us to have an area that's designated for smaller children and then an area that's designated for older children. The indoor basketball court that we've shown here is a full court. What we envision is an area where you can pull bleachers in that can stack up against the walls, but whenever you have a game that might have a lot of attendees, you can pull bleachers out of the walls and have one full court game, and then whenever there is, say, kids for a day camp or something like that, you can push them back and then have 4 half courts. We also envision a walking track around the second floor, so that obviously there's a lot of walkers in the community, a lot of joggers, so they can jog in the rain and maybe at night whenever I have a little bit more safety. Also, that building would have restrooms and showers in it, and areas set aside for maybe spin classes, aerobic classes, yoga, what have you. The existing buildings, I'm not sure if those footprints made it in y'all's package, but
Yeah, they are.
the
Oh, no, they aren't. Yes, they are.
The existing building that is currently office space, we have proposed to change some of the interior walls a little bit to accommodate the new uses, which would be kind of a day camp area, rental or leased space for Wakulla County volunteers, a kind of a daycare facility for people who might be utilizing the community center. Restrooms obviously are already there. We don't propose to make any changes to it. The existing building that is currently a church is already set up pretty well to be a multi-use facility. The main thing that we plan, or that we are proposing to do with it, and this plan, is to remove the pews. It already has a stage so that you can hold banquets or fundraisers there. If really all you'd need to do is add maybe some round tables, some more mobile furniture in there, and you really have a multi-use facility. You can have business meetings and community organization meetings, plays, live plays, concerts, with the AV equipment that may still be in there. You can have movie nights, children's movie nights, family movie nights, whatever you like. And then we're proposing a folding partition wall in there in case you have the need to do 2 things at once. Day camp in one side while a luncheon is going on in the other. Moving back to the site plan, outdoor basketball courts and tennis courts. Those tennis courts, a volleyball court or a tennis court will kind of fit in the same space. Another thing that we've learned through our research is that just having a multi-use court, especially when you have children and children's games, is important. That you're only limited by your imagination and how you can entertain and interact with the children. Community gardens up in the, as we're heading northwest, what we're envisioning there is an area where we can section out plots and maybe with a lottery or some other form of selection process, have citizens apply, and then they can have a lease on a little garden plot that will give them the ability to grow fresh vegetables, eat healthier and save money. And kind of an outdoor stage picnic pavilion in the far northwest corner with some permanent barbecue grills adjacent to it. And then in the southwest corner, an open field for any multitude of activities, whether it's throwing a frisbee with a friend, picnic, pick-up flag football game, duck, duck, goose, whatever you might want to do.
It could be set up for soccer or something like that.
And the beauty about that is that if it's open and graded flat, you can use it for anything. I would like to note that this plan is not detailed to y'all's code on landscaping and parking. There's two reasons for that. We're probably going to have to perform a parking study to determine exactly what kind of parking spaces we're going to do out here. And speaking about that, we propose that all the actual parking stalls, with the exception of the ADA stalls, be pavers, pervious pavers, where we can try to reduce some of the stormwater pollutants. Also with landscaping, until we get a full survey of the site that includes topography and trees, where these items may jostle around a little bit depending on what kind of trees are out there and what kind of preservation we can perform on the existing vegetation on site. That being said, I'm excited about hearing input on what you guys might want to see for our long-term master plan.
Let me provide a little bit more input, I think, or background as to, I think, the rationale for why some of these things were moved around. And think things like the gardens, the picnic area, the open field would be easy access by anybody. They don't have to pay any money or be a member of anything, whereas I think we've tried to cluster things that we may need
Access
to restrict access for the safety of children, and also if we're going to have this be self-sufficient, that we're going to have to collect some fees. So, but I think the basketball courts and multi-use courts would be also just accessible to anybody, and the walking trail and the frisbee park. Those would be things that would be open access, and then we'd have the more restricted access kind of in that central core.
And also a grouping of the uses, so that if you have oversight, staff oversight, that those are kind of clustered together, so that you don't have staff at all four corners of your site trying to provide supervision.
The only thing I wasn't sure about was the playgrounds, because right now they're back more where it, and I understand if we have the, I'm just wondering if those need to be out more. I don't know. There you go. Like a picnic area? Yeah, but somewhere that would be more of that, anyone could come and use.
I agree with that.
Now I'm going to just take a minute to show you some things that, having spent a lot of time at playgrounds in recent years, I've formed some pretty strong opinions and found some I like. So I just wanted to quickly show you some things.
Thank you, Alan.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, don't go away.
Oh, I'm here.
want you to show me how to play duck, duck, goose.
We got enough space right here.
Okay.
That's all we had to do in Smith Creek.
Ooh, sorry.
Played duck, duck, goose all day. We played squirrel, squirrel, rabbit.
If you look at this first panel,
We got it.
can y'all
Sorry.
see that? This first panel I really like because it shows the whole playground is surrounded by a nice fence, a gate that, you know, so that only the parents and the kids go in and keeps dogs out and older kids and so forth. And then right inside the fence is seating for parents and stuff, which I think is really nice. So that's sort of a vision I'd like to work toward. This playground's not anything particularly fancy in terms of its equipment, but you'll notice they have planted some trees here to ultimately to grow to provide shade, and they've also done these kind of sails so that keep the kids from getting sunburned. So those are some things from this part that I like. And then this is one of my favorites because it's built by the community. And they're all...
There's a Sesame Street about that.
One of the best ones would show you it's like this one or this one. It's all kind of modules, and the community can decide which modules you like and how you want to put them together. And individual businesses can sponsor and put their name on a plaque. And, you know, so you just, but it's, this one, I've seen them in different themes. This one's kind of like castles, but I've seen it a farm theme and whatever too. And they have a clear division between, this is for a little more older, more physically active kids, and then they have right next to it, but separated, is this more tot lot where everything's smaller and, you know, just a lot of fantasy play and stuff. And so I don't know. I know now's a tough economic time, but I would love to see the Rotary or some group kind of get excited about trying to do this.
I'd like to see us plan a sidewalk down Trice Lane too, which I think CTSD discussed one time.
We don't have the right of way.
Let me add to that note that our intention is to allow this walking trail, if it makes sense when we actually have the survey and lay it out, to kind of double as sidewalks on Trice and Shadeville. If not, as we develop the site, I think it's a requirement of the code to perform that anyway.
Are the walking trails paved walking trails?
They'll be asphalt.
Well, they're multi-use, so there can be kids biking, inline skating, you know, mothers pushing strollers, joggers. So we might have to do kind of one way or whatever so we don't get collisions, but...
Just make it 12 feet wide or something.
If we had a choice, of course, I'm going to get into money in a moment, but if we had a choice and you were going to make a choice of top 5 items, what would be your number 1 item that you would add first?
Yeah, we're going to go, well, that's the second part. Right now we're doing conceptual master plan.
Okay.
You know, what is everything we'd like to...
This is like a 20-year plan.
Good.
So that we don't build something and then find out, oh my goodness, now we don't have any place where we could put this. And 2 things I noticed came off, which I think we need to talk about, are the bowling alley. I asked some of the IDA and the EDC to look into trying to see if we could get the private sector to address that. We aren't finished exploring it, but there are also options where public facilities, and it was estimated we'd probably need about 6-8 lanes. And so I just would like to keep that on the drawing until we know for sure that it's not where we're going to go.
You had 2 things.
Okay, and then, right, my other one is the kitchen, because Shelley's here, and let me if you all take one of those. Shelley did an outstanding job. She put together all kinds of specifications for a commercial kitchen which can be used for cooking classes. People can can food. It can be used if we're going to have banquets. It can be used to prepare those meals. And so that never ended up on, or it came off of maybe the initial one. We need to find a place for that. And then some other things, and then I'll just be quiet and let y'all talk. It's really important to me that we try to reduce long-term operating costs and that we try to model what our best practices. So we want to do low-impact development. We want to try and use solar. For the pool, I'd like to have solar thermal heating so it can be used year-round at no electrical cost. I'd like to try to have solar PV on the roofs, and Scott Jackson was real hot on pass those down, trying to put in cisterns to collect rainwater and then use that to water the community garden. So runoff from the roofs and so forth can be collected in something like that. So it's hard to tell on the drawings that we're keeping these things in mind, but we are. Okay, I'm going to be quiet. Go, Alan.
I'm sure we all have a lot of opinions. I have a list of like 10 things just from what we discussed to try to figure out what the best order to go over them. Just looking at things, right? So you don't want to talk about prioritizing at this meeting?
We're going to move to that very shortly.
Okay.
Right now we want your feedback on this drawing.
Okay.
What's currently on it and where it's located.
My feedback on the drawing.
Okay.
I don't think that we need a bowling alley currently, so I'm not pushing to have that on the plan.
Okay.
The gymnasium, I'm not very inclined to put a gymnasium on the plan, or if we put a gym, to rank it fairly low, only because we have several with our school systems that I feel with some sort of better partnership we might be able to use and have access to. I know the Parks and Rec have used the gym at Old Crawfordville for activities in the past. There's a gym at Old Shadeville, which does not have kids at very often, and the gym at Old Shadeville is just used for storage. So I'd like to see us try and use the gyms we have already, but I don't think we could afford a gym right now either. I'm just saying as far as things go. Looking at the drawing, the most recent drawing, because I've been in the process a lot also, the only thought I have, and I understand what we're doing with the trying to put everything together in the center where we can protect everybody with a fence and make it one type of facility. If you want to have the community center, this is what we have to figure out a way to do this, and I don't know because I don't have a lot of experience with community centers. I want to make sure whatever we do, you're not going to be able to have, if you look at the pool by the extension office in Tallahassee, let's see if I know the name of that pool. What's the pool by the extension office in Tallahassee?
Jack McLean.
Yeah, Jack McLean Pool has offices in it for meetings. I've had meetings there, and it has weight room, it has pool, and changing rooms. It's still very the word I'm looking for, practical. Ugly is basically what I'm getting to, but I wasn't going to say ugly. It's just very practical. You're not going to use it for anything. You're not going to have you're not going to do theater there. You're not going to do a dance there. You're not going to do formal meetings. Like if we want to have someone do a formal get-together, it's just very practical. And it's a very just minimal functioning, and it functions. It does what it needs to do. Whereas we have a facility that we could make something that has potential to be used for something more, a community center that could verge near a civic center type building, even though it's very, very small. So that is something to take into consideration as I talk this way. And then we have 20 acres, and we could put a pool somewhere else on it. When I say 20, it might only be 16. How many acres is it?
20.
20? And then 22.5. So we could put the pool not so right next to your meeting area. Would be what I just have that conversation, because that's the concept that has to be decided today, is do we want a pool facility where everything is tied into the pool facility, or do you want a facility and a pool? Correct? That's the question we're asking. Yeah.
And the original drawing more had the pool as sort of a separate area.
Right.
And then there was a cluster more of the gymnasium and some of those other things. So, yeah, it could work either way.
This is the one that I've seen before. That's all. That's what I'm trying to figure out. That would be my question for the concept, is do we want to do like the community center there on Paul Russell. I've been to the community center, surprisingly a lot of Tallahassee's community centers. There's another one over in on the south side. They just had a shooting there, or stabbing there. It was the first one in a long time, but I think it's also similar. They have lots of meetings there. They have gyms there.
Meetings or meetings?
Meetings. No, one stabbing.
Robbery.
But I don't know. What do y'all think, gentlemen? And Jerry, I meant to tell you this. I don't know if they told you last night. We have to. They at Monday's meeting they said we weren't talking into our mics enough. I'm only telling you this because yours is pointed far away from you.
Maybe I don't want to do that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Basically, my feeling would be that here again, if this is 20-year program, then whatever. But a bowling alley for me would be totally out, because there will be private interests come in when we reach 45,000, 50,000, then they'll build 20 lanes or 30 lanes. That'll just happen. If you have a 6-lane, you're going to be holding and the bowling alleys that they bring in will have complete video, everything, a restaurant and whatever. So bowling alley would be out. I disagree with you a little on the gym. I think if we have to coordinate, my feeling would be, yes, we could always use school gyms and whatever, but that's not practical. You have to get agreement to do. My feeling would be we would use school ball fields, whatever, but that just doesn't happen.
I don't think we have school ball fields.
High school. Yeah, so everybody, they've got those tied up. But I would think that we would need a gym at some point. You can use a gym as a multiple. It can carry a lot of different things. A walking trail upstairs, I'm not sure. I think that'd be an extra expense that wouldn't be necessary. We hadn't had a rain in 2 months, so. Since it's long range and whatever, I have a whole bunch of other questions, but they're not right here. But I wouldn't do a bowling alley at all. It would be a question for me as to whether you would go with the pool or the gym first. And then I'd have a question with regards to you. The survey, where was it sent? If you're not careful, you'll have the people who are within a 1-mile radius using the facility, and the people 5 miles away will never use the facility. So it's that sort of thing. I'd ask the Y person here, do you have you say it's not a Y, I say it generally is, it's whatever. Do you have a Y in this size town anywhere? Where?
As far as what region?
In a community this small.
30,000 people.
No.
The YMCA has over 252 Ys
Yes.
all throughout it, so we could find a model for you that would
Yeah.
be something similar, and get that information to you.
Well, that'd
Do you
be interesting. We're
Do you know the
fairly small.
population in Bainbridge, Georgia? Because they have a Y.
They do a YMCA, yes.
And
They're pretty small.
and they're less than 30,000 people.
I don't know how to Y, it's 18,000.
Yeah, I've seen Ys all up. I'm not pushing for the Y or not pushing for the Y. I'm just saying that the size. I've seen them in a lot of small towns.
If we're doing this for a 20-year, that's not a problem. We will be there in 20 years. We'll be a big town in 20 years.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure I'm understanding your question about the why.
Well, I was just thinking, are we large enough if it's going to be a community center, so, and the Y is going to be running it. Most of what we're talking about here is Y-type features. If we were doing this for ourselves, I'm not sure that we could afford it or even support it.
I think.
What we're looking at having the Y run it for the first few years is what we've agreed to right now, or we're in the process of negotiating. We would anticipate taking this over in the future, or having another authority take it over in the future. We're going to move forward with building something and opening this, or hopefully opening the facility.
And also, this would be a time to comment on the indoor proposal too, if you...
I do have comments about the indoor proposal also, but we can hear if Mike or Andy, do you want to talk about outdoor at all?
I mean, I agree with, I guess I agree with Ms. Art about moving the playground over, and I don't, bowling alley to me, we used to have a skating rink here in Crawford years ago. I went there when I was in high school. I guess it just, business wasn't here to support it, but as we grow, it will be, so I think the bowling alley will take care of itself eventually, just like a skating rink will. But the gym, my kids go to Truesdale, long drive, but they have a good time. And I know there's a lot of people that take their kids to that water park up there just to go swimming, go all the way to Truesdale.
Well, and it's also not, even though a lot of the people are here because they care about kids, I mean, there are things that all ages, seniors and other people be able to use. And I know, for example, the gym and fitness kind of stuff I see are law enforcement and firefighters and paramedics and public safety people who need to maintain usually a certain level of fitness, being able to, when they're not on shift, come and work out in this kind of facility. Now, I don't know. Some people have said, well, we shouldn't compete with the private sector, but, in terms of providing fitness facilities, but if it's somewhat of a, for county workforce to work out, then it makes sense too.
What about meeting rooms? I keep hearing, I'm in several groups, and we're scrambling all the time for a place to meet. What do you have there?
And that's the inside of the building. Let's hear from Chairman Stewart on the outside.
I'm not for a bowling alley. I agree with the rest of you that talked about bowling alley. I've always said that we should have a swimming pool. I fought for that for years and was voted down. And I know they're expensive. Once you get them, there's an expense to run them. But I'd like to hear what the why. If we built a pool, could the why make it? I think y'all's job is just to not make money, but to break even. And can it be done? I don't know. I'd like to hear that. And nothing would make me happier than in my next year and a half to be able to approve a pool to be able to be built and say that one day later in my life that's something we got done. But a gym, I really don't care if we have a gym or not. I'd love to see a swimming pool and fix those buildings up. We're going to talk more about inside in a minute, but to repair the existing buildings and make them where you could have, and I think the kitchen is a good idea. I don't think you can have a facility without a kitchen, because if you're going to have weddings or you're going to have any other kind of events, you got to have a place to prepare food, and that's just where I'm at. The big question is, how much money do we have? I know I just got out of listening to talking about budget for the last 3 hours, and we have some money that's allocated to us through 1 cent sales tax and building impact fees and legislative appropriation. I wish we could choose something right away to get started on. We have to, if we're going to spend that money or we're going to lose it, is all agree on what we want to move forward with, whether that's a pool or fixing the existing buildings or whatever, and get the Y engaged in running something over there. Sitting empty and idle is doing us no good. If we don't do anything but play duck, duck, goose, doing more than we are now.
I don't know if that's getting off track, but the community gardens to me seem like something that'd be pretty expensive we could do immediately.
Well,
Or the walking trail. I
Or
mean,
renovate the existing building, walking trail.
just get people engaged in doing something over there with the facility.
But
And,
I think what Ms. Arts is trying to do is show a master
I agree.
plan. We'll go ahead
I
and do
agree.
this piece.
but we need to agree now on a piece so we
Okay.
can move forward with it.
Okay, well, it sounds like y'all are ready to go on to the next.
Well, do you want to talk about the
unless you wanted
interior?
to take-
When
Oh,
do we
go.
talk, when do we talk about money?
We're
we'll
almost
talk-
there.
We're almost there. We're going to talk
Talk
about
about money. We're not gonna talk about money.
Okay, go ahead,
Uh,
Alan, on the interior.
the interior. It depends what you want to do with these buildings. Again, the sanctuary or the former sanctuary is a good sized space. I think I've said this before. I'm gonna reiterate this point because I think we should have already done it. And this one goes to Tim Barden. We need to sell the pews as quickly as possible.
Not a big market for pews.
You know, people buy pews. People will buy them.
They would?
You can get American Pickers down here, I'm sure they...
Well, no, I mean, you could. I mean, if you sell the pews, if you put them on eBay, which was suggested to me, and you'll see how much they go for. I don't know. I bet you could sell them for $100 each, easy, and you could probably sell them a lot more.
Put one on my porch.
Well, if it's $100 each, you let them come and get them from the local area. If you put them on eBay, they come and pick them up. They're in charge of shipping and handling.
I thought the courthouse wanted them.
The courthouse had a problem with them.
We got a man right out here who wants one.
Hey, we
Right tomorrow,
got-
we'll give you one.
But we need to, in a county when the things we were arguing about the other day, where it's cutting $1,000 here, cutting $1,000 there, we can make $1,000 selling pews to put into the general fund, and we'll sell
All
the
right,
fund.
let's sell those pews.
Maybe I'm
Okay.
There's a piano in there. I don't know where that came from.
Okay, well, I mean, if
Never a good
we could have a
first
surplus sale and we could get rid of it all. I mean, that's the board's direction, we can certainly do that.
I've been encouraging surplus sales since our last one. I'm a fan of selling the surplus. Get rid of our individual printers. The stage as it exists, I don't think will work for. It depends what you're using it for. It's not designed for community theater or anything like that right now because it's just there. So everyone either has to stay on the stage everyone has to stay on the stage the entire time, or they have to leave, get off, walk around. There's a back door, but not on the stage. So there's no way, it's just going to be people coming up and going down. You just have to make it the same level.
Well, we need to decide, I
put a
hear
curtain on the
you,
first
and I
floor.
agree, but we need to decide what we want the inside to look like, and then go tear it all out and start over. So we took it out. Anyway,
I like the idea of having the one big open room, and actually there was some conversation about whether we could even put a court in there.
Oh, I looked into that, ceilings aren't high enough.
Okay.
Really?
Like a basketball court. or
basketball court.
volleyball court.
I was like,
Oh, no,
there's a
not a
chance we're going to need another courtroom again. So that's
I didn't
that's
mean
on our
that.
list of things we have to spend money on in the next 3 to 4 years.
Okay. But you could do aerobics classes or other things.
I like the
in
idea
there.
of the big room.
Mhm.
I think folding partitions look bad unless you can hide them well, and that room isn't set up to hide them. You have the modern folding partitions which sink back into the wall, but you have to have a wall to sink them back into, and that room doesn't have it. So I wouldn't encourage the folding partition.
Okay.
You're talking kind of like a room you see in a hotel, in a big
A big
conference room, like I've got ARPC meetings up there.
community center room.
I mean, I know you get partition, I know they don't look the best, but they will fold up against the wall. But then you could split it in half, kind of a hotel meeting.
And everything interior in these buildings is not load-bearing, so, I mean, we can build a little pocket onto the side.
Yeah, and I knew that for the stage. I was talking about how just you want to use it as a stage for having people come on and off stage at all.
You know for a fact that's not tall enough for a court inside?
Whenever I asked that question, they said it needed to be 24 feet, and I think that we're
Well, that
looking...
may be ideal. I played in a little old court that wasn't, our opponents hit the ceiling every time they shot, and we always won.
We can look into that. We'd probably need to remove the drop ceiling.
Well, hey,
And then-
we
and then
can
it'd
do
be-
the drop ceiling. We've got
it-
we've got a gym.
Oh, that's okay.
I think, though, it's more important, Jerry, in my opinion, to have a meeting room right now than a gym.
Well, I agree with meeting rooms.
Well, it can be multi-purpose. You can use it sometimes
Well, and
for one thing
We
and
couldn't
other
use
times
it
for
for a gym
another.
and then a meeting room, though, because it wouldn't be a ceiling.
Oh.
So I like the big room. I like it having a stage. I think that is good for different things. The rooms with the offices, I'm not sure that the way it's made right now, that looks like very similar to what it is right now. There's not much change to it. I walked through it yesterday.
Has the Y given their opinion on the layout on this floor plan?
Not the revisions, no.
I mean, on the existing building floor plan?
We did generally, yes, sir.
Because, I mean, they're the ones that are going to be in there immediately.
I don't know. I was trying to figure out what to do with that space, and it depends what we decide to do with it as a county. If we want to help provide meeting spaces or offices for nonprofits or county staff in the community center and the YMCA staff, then we need to keep offices. If we want to have a kids zone and a weight room, then we need to put in a weight room. The day camp isn't going to be there unless the Y does a day camp. We're not going to be doing day camps.
I think where it says day camp area, when we talked with the Y, that was a room that community groups could come and use. So it could be for meetings, it could be for education classes or whatever, that the Y's not running, but they're letting other groups come in and use that room.
I do think, because I've had citizens ask for this, the kitchen. I think we need a kitchen, a canning kitchen of some sort, or if that's the proper term, but a commercial kitchen where people can make prepared food. It doesn't necessarily have to be at this building. It may come out of these monies, but it could be here or at the Extension Center doing a renovation, would be my other suggestion.
Wouldn't it need to be brutally adjacent to whatever meeting area you have? Or
There's a small kitchen in there right now with a refrigerator and a microwave.
this one?
Well, I guess I'm just talking about, this is more for community. The kitchen that's being discussed is more, so if you ever want to, let's say you're a farmer, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
And you want to prepare anything, you're officially supposed to do that in a commercial kitchen. So if you shell peas and sell them, it's supposed to be shelled in a commercial kitchen. So you have to have, and one of the things is that some of our farmers in our community try and make money selling their goods, and they don't have enough money to build their own commercial kitchen to start off with. They might want to use this, or if they want to can things, make honey.
Sounds like something good at the extension office then.
It is something good at the extension office, but it's something that we need that we probably should have in our community center, in our community. So I'm just putting, and some of these funds, well, we can talk about that. But yeah, that's something I think our community needs. I don't know if we need it right here, but it's something I think we should be talking about while we're having this conversation, because that could help our community in the immediate future.
Okay. Well, do we want to go on and talk about money and priorities for using the money we have, or do we want to have comment on the plan, or just comment at the end?
We can start talking some about money, because I know Commissioner Moore is anxious, if you're willing to.
Okay, I'd like Alan to start off.
Okay, we have 3 different pots that holds this money, and of that, we have legislative appropriations, some sales tax, and
Park and Rec impact.
yes, impact fees. Our total pot right now is right around $725,000. I think for budget purposes, we need to shoot for construction costs of around $650. That'll give us some room for design and contingency.
Alan, is that completely draining the public facilities fund and the impact fee fund?
To my knowledge, that's everything that's in there.
So if we do this, we can't do community park, we can't do, I don't want to do that. I don't
Okay.
want to spend every dime we got on this one.
Although I would say that we've talked about using some of this money as match to try to get some grant funds, so
I think we should find out what we can get for $392, which is what we've been appropriated. We can get a lot for that, but I'm not inclined to spend every dime of everything else we have left on this, and then we can't do anything else for the next several years. I mean, we want to build a park in Wakulla Gardens. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Well, if you want it, and Tim, correct me, the money we have in those other 2 funds are all the money we have to make the repairs at the library that have to be made. Well, there's library impact fees set aside, but
No, it's not for
Just
repairs, for new
new construction. Okay.
But there's, you know, we could renovate the building, we could build the community gardens, we could build a walking trail probably, get started, and then the big thing is we got a plan, we can apply for more grants as the years go by.
So my first question for Alan, every time anybody looks at a building, I guess we don't know yet, that's going to be your answer to me. They tell us that there are automatic things that have to be done to bring it up to code. In particular, they reference sprinklers.
As I mentioned before, that's a possibility, but I think that there are ways that we can work around it. Sprinklers are extremely expensive. I think that we can provide proper egress, like more egress, more exit doors, emergency exit doors.
Frank, when you need him, he can answer that in 2 seconds.
Pardon?
Frank, I said Frank, if he was sitting over here, he can answer that in 2 seconds. I'd be inclined.
He'll say yes.
Yes, because
He'll
it's
say sprinkle it, and we'll worry about it
occupancy,
later.
which is assembly. I'm sure you'd need sprinklers. And if there's central water close out there,
Yeah.
I think there is. Probably about 50 grand for sprinklers, is what I guess.
Which eats into a chunk of what we're doing. I'm just, as we're talking about money,
But I don't think.
if we can add an extra door, which costs $5,000,
$5,000,
$2,000.
Without trying to do everything at one time, it seems like the swimming pool is the highest priority that we have. And I'm like Randy, we have 392,000. Instead of spreading that 392 all over the place, just go ahead and see if that money will stretch into a pool.
But Jerry, remember, the pool is the top priority, but it's also the most expensive ongoing maintenance item.
Well,
on this.
hopefully, we're not going to be spending any money going forward.
That's a big deal.
Well,
'Cause
I understand that. You can,
Ms. Hasselwine, can you come up, Mr. YMCA, and tell us?
Mr. Franklin.
Commissioner, while he's doing that, I think it needs to be clear that, you know, the legislative appropriation is very vague as to what it can build. And I've talked to the gentleman, he's purposely very vague as to what it can build, but I don't think it's a pool. It strictly says to construct a community center. And I've
Okay.
kind of hinted to him, would that be adding on to an existing building, would that be
Well,
renovation? And I
and
think
it-
those are the lines we need to look at for that money particularly,
And
not
it's worth-
something out that's not going to be part of the actual facility. So.
And it's worth pointing out that some of the budget shortfall from last year comes from the fact we planned to use that money to buy the building, and we had to find other money because the federal government told us, we gave it to you to get a community center, but you had to build it, not buy it. But that was, yeah.
That's very simple.
So that's part of the problem we had, was
How much apart?
$392,000 apart.
And they told you that after you bought it.
You were asked a question.
My name is Ken Franklin. I'm President and CEO of Capital Region YMCA. We've talked through a couple of these. Originally, the first conversations I had with Alan was a possibility of you deciding in the priority and phasing in the development of this property. Obviously, nobody has a billfold large enough to do all the things in that drawing, so you might want to consider those things that have the lowest impact in dollar to convert to a maximum usage immediately, which shows your community you are doing something. Phase 2 may be a capital improvement of some sort, which probably would be a pool or some grant writing opportunities that would raise funds for you to make that occur. And then third, as you've already pointed out, is a gymnasium, which again is another huge multi-purpose facility. So I think you're talking through the right things to do. In terms, let me back up 1 second and talk about the interior space, which I had shared earlier. Last year when we first talked through the workshop, we looked at these two spaces, and I think one of you mentioned a minute ago, we had a baptismal, we have a stage, we have an AV control center. Most of that space, if that were open, totally floor to ceiling, has been pointed out. You then now have a utility space you can use for anything, and that could be phase 1 of a common meeting area, recreational area, property space that could be rented for any number of activities, wedding receptions, whatever you may want. If you want to break that space up into usable space for a well and fitness program, which would include equipment that's not easily moved from one place to the next. Most of you know these pieces of equipment we have are very heavy, and they have to be planted so they are stationary. Or you can have a group exercise room which takes hardly no space at all. This floor, for an example, would be an ideal exercise facility, almost like a gymnasium. If the ceiling height is high enough, you've got now an indoor gym at almost no cost with multiple use. As far as the other part of the space, the office areas, my recommendation early on was the kid zone. We call that a kid watch area. That's got to be critical if you want to draw community involvement with family involvement. You've got to have that accessibility for kids to be watched for a period of time if they're going to be part of a wellness or fitness program, or even if they're attending a group exercise, or if they're attending a cooking class, or whatever program you may want to try to implant in that program. We never really came to you with the premise that we need an office. We pretty much work on the fly. That's kind of the structure of the why. We pretty much are in the people business, not sitting behind a desk somewhere. So our functional space could probably wind up where you see your AV center, and that's only because we need a control setting to know who's in the facility, because my insurance and liability requires that I know who's there at all times. So we're not looking for office space, although it would be nice if we have storage areas. And then finally, on the last part was a kitchen. I'll have to tell you that one of the biggest growing areas we have is baby boomers. We cater to baby boomers and seniors, not to take away from any programs that are here in your county right now, but we can tell you that one of the biggest activities we have is coffee hour, and at least once a month, luncheons, potluck luncheons of our seniors. And if you don't get there by 11:30, you're going to probably stand up to eat. And so I'm talking about hundreds of people, not just one or two. So when you think down the road, you have to think about kids. You also have to think about the aging population that you're going to be serving here, and then also the county as it grows. Original plans, going back to the first question, phase one, you can remodel very inexpensively, in my opinion, what you have right now and convert it to usable space almost instantly. If you can get through the zoning and planning commission and the required permitting that's necessary, you might be able to speed that up even faster. Once that first space on the left, which is the original church setting, the parish or the worship hall, is converted to usable net space, now you've got lots of options, and you're able to back yourself into those options based on what works for you and the billfold that you want to invest. Phase two, high priority in the community is a swimming pool. I'll tell you that from the liability issue, you've got to have control over that space, and you've got to have accessibility through a central point, or you're going to subject yourself to a major impact of your financial standing. We have a strong feeling about that. We are about kids and about safety and about who's in that facility at all times, but it's also a very expensive proposition. Chemicals are not cheap. The lifeguards, everyone that works around that facility or around those kids are certified, must be certified. Department of Children and Family Services mandates everyone's fingerprinted. I mean, it goes way beyond just a place to jump in and go swimming. So phase two may be the pool, and or phase two may be the gym. If you're looking for more utility space and usage, you can build a gym a lot less expensively than what you can for a pool. You have control of that space, and again, you've now doubled your capacity for multi-use purpose. If you make it two-story, now you've even added another level. I had recommended to Alan early on, the more you can stack with less roof surface, the better economy you're going to get out of the space. So less footprint on the ground, but more usable space overall. You could put a wellness center in a gym, first floor or second, doesn't matter. We've seen facilities with basketball courts on the second floor. We've seen them on the first floor. We've seen facility exercise programs on the second floor overlooking a balcony environment onto a basketball court. So you can be just as creative as you want to be, but have the flexibility to keep the space as you use it and convert it so you're always making a good investment toward the future, if that makes any sense. Your conversion front-end costs, not much on what you've got. Phase two, which would be the next building project, a gym or a pool. If you have a local resident that would like to have their name on this facility, I'd recommend you think about that. It's a legacy opportunity for someone in the community. Some of you commissioners may know someone. Nothing would hold you back from doing that. And as a matter of fact, in some facilities, if I mentioned to Alan early on, one other option is if you enclose that pool, You create a field house environment, which allows you to use both spaces simultaneously back to back. In Florida, we're lucky we can swim quite often, almost year-round. Well, you'll find out that as most new facilities go in around the Ys in the country, or even in communities, they're looking at enclosing those pools. Wouldn't you want to have 12 months of service space instead of 9? And the cost of that extra 2 or 3 months is minimal, because you've already got the hole in the ground, you've got the chemicals. All you're really talking about is staffing. Now, if you stop for a second and think about what I said a second ago about kids and baby boomers. One of the principal users of our pool is water aerobics for seniors, rehabilitation, rehab facility. When you combine rehab with fitness, aquatics is part of it. It's become one of the lowest impact exercise opportunities for seniors. Most of us hopefully stay healthy and never have to go through that, but I will tell you that that is a high impact opportunity as you look forward to the future. If you add that gym facility, if that can be combined, if not, that's fine too, but the more you can do that clustering effect, roof space, facility, field house environment, the less dollar cost you're going to be looking at long term. That still gives you a lot of footprint property to make a lot of revisions as you see fit, based on however big your billfold gets. If the county grows to 60,000 or 100,000, you might have other opportunities financially to do things that we're not talking about today that are even on this plan. So, phase 1, minimal changes on the floor plan you've got for the building interior, and then get started. Phase 2 is whatever you all decide you think is the next priority.
I would like to say basically that I will yield whatever decisions that I may have and whatever ideas I may have to your professional and to basically what you perceive that we need, because I have no idea what works for you. You know what works for you. So basically, I would say I'm going to follow your lead, except maybe for money. As long as the money's right, I'll follow your lead. I'm not going to interject my misunderstanding against something that you already know about.
And let me just echo what I said Monday night. We're only going to do this if we can break even also. We're not in this for the profit. We don't have a profit motive.
Right.
So
you tell me, for myself, you tell me what would work for you, and that's where I go.
The only comment I'd have about it, what you talked about, is we have a very active senior center, and they have all these items you were talking about, the meals, everything there. I don't know if we're not stepping on their toes, but I don't know if there's a need for 2 of them. They have a pretty large assembly area. It's a really nice facility. I think that base may already be covered, is what I'm trying to say.
And that's perfectly fine. I'm not trying to suggest you reinvent a center. What I'm saying is that oftentimes if your center is going to grow, they wind up consolidating. And we had that in Leon County where they've consolidated and moved organizations together for economy purposes. And, in your case, you're starting with a plain piece of paper. You can do whatever you want. You got 22 and a half acres. A Steel Pro building can make that all change overnight. I mean, it's all new.
Our senior center, Randy, is a no cost to the seniors. The seniors would have to have some fee to participate in the meals and so forth. But
well, let me just clarify that a second. The potluck activities for our seniors are volunteered, food delivery, service free. So if you show up and you're a senior, get in line and eat. You don't have to be a member, but our members are the ones that control that. And again, we're not trying to duplicate the senior center providers in Leon County. That's not what we do. It just happens to be part of our community experience by being a part of the Y.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
I have a question for Tim.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The big question for me as we try and as this is moving forward, we have to get a definite answer, and I know you're saying it's complicated, about what we can spend the money on. If we can't use the money for sprinklers, and I don't know if we can use, and then I don't know what that means for that building. Does that mean we can't use that building unless we spend $50,000? I mean, hopefully we can, where down and go?
Oh, it's over there.
We can hopefully make the exits work, but we need to know what we can spend the money on.
I think that would be fine. They're not going to give me a list of what you could spend it on. That you're dealing with Washington, so the bureaucracy is tenfold there. I'm getting somebody that tells me that you need to construct a community center, and he's like, renovation, addition, those are all things I put out to him, and he seemed receptive to them. Pool, he was not receptive to.
What about the garden? When you say construct a community center, are we talking about physical building?
Bricks and mortar. Bricks and mortar.
Not horseshoe pits, not
Right.
walking trails.
Right.
So this money needs to be spent on
Right.
the buildings.
Right.
That
What,
seems-
before we spend any money, then, or much money, I think we should figure out what our next steps are
Right.
and submit it for approval. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
So that we don't have the same situation where we end up with what we're dealing with right now. If we're only going to try and spend the $392,000, the renovations to the building may not be that much. I think we listed that. Well, I saw it on here for a few $100,000 or something.
Yes, and if all we're doing is demo, that comes way down. That's the renovation to the existing buildings was a much more conservative estimate because I'm not 100% sure of where we were headed with that.
I'd like to see, if possible, some sort of breezeway between the two. It's an open courtyard concept. I think that'd be a justifiable expense because that's money spent on the building to kind of, instead of just having two pro steel buildings sitting out there, we could somehow, get from one to the other.
I think that would, because it's a church and we're going to make it a community, we're going to construct a community center out of it, so.
Be a nice.
That's the way I would justify it.
Plantings or whatever in this courtyard, and I think if that's what we can spend the money on.
Well, I think then
Sprinklers.
my impression from what coming out of this meeting is our first steps should be coming up with the actual use of the interior of the building and how much it's going to cost to make those adjustments, and having that brought back to us would cost, so we know what we're doing with that. And then maybe having a conversation with each of us and trying to figure out something that you think we'll all like without conveying between us.
That's impossible.
I agree. When I don't agree, I think there should be something, because there's only so much we can do. Making those changes and coming back and seeing how much money is left over, because if we're going to try and stick to the 392 and not spend any of the other money, our options for what we can do with this building, there aren't very many.
Well, yeah, I want to go back to this 8-foot exercise trail, 8-foot wide exercise trail that would allow people to walk and bike and inline skate and jog and whatever. $45,000.
We could use the 1 cent sales tax for that.
So I don't think we should just say automatically it's only going to be $392. I think some of these other relatively low-cost things that would be highly visible, it would get people there at the site using it, I think.
I agree. If we can't use that money to build a walking trail, I'm not adverse to a walking trail. I just don't want to spend every dime we got on that piece of property, and that we can't spend any money anywhere else in the county. That was my point.
Okay.
And if we could spend the $392 on walking trails, we could make it happen, but we can't. So I guess we need to maximize that $392 on this building. I don't know what kind of air conditioner it's got in it. Maybe we could put the PV cells in it. I think that would possibly be an allowable use. If there's money left over that we need to do something with, we could put solar in it.
Can we do things like that with the construction?
We
Have
can
to find
certainly
out.
ask.
Okay, one of the other things, well, I'll talk to you about some other ideas, and we can maybe bring them back up. I was trying to figure out just the best way to meet the needs of our community.
I think we should, for me, I'm going to follow whatever this gentleman says that works for him. And of course, it works for the county, but he's got multiple years' experience in running this kind of system. We don't want to put something in that has no benefit, and I think he knows a lot about what has benefit and what works.
I think we're all kind of on the same page.
Okay.
If we renovate the building first, maybe look at some of the lower cost alternatives to use our tax dollars on, the walking trail, which everybody loves those. Maybe something that doesn't cost a lot of money, but get the most bang for the buck.
Yeah, can we use and I guess like some of the stuff on here, like the land clearing, can we use any of this money for land clearing to make the big open duck goose pond field?
The legislative appropriation?
Or the impact fee, 1 cent sales tax?
We could do that.
I think you can use the 1 cent sales tax for.
That would be a good in-house match for a future grant, though, for Public Works guys to do. They're right around the corner.
Okay.
I've done it 100 times when I was in previous life.
Okay, well, a lot of these things that don't really cost any money, like putting up a feather ball or drop shot horseshoes, they're all under $500. You just have to have some place to put them, which means clearing some of the trees out of the way. Okay.
I'd like to give the public an opportunity to comment.
We're over time now, but that's fine. Any public input?
No. I know Gail Campbell was here, but I think, has she left? Bruce, Shelley, please come up and...
Bruce Ashley, current president of the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth, and we've been involved in discussions about all of this for some time. And I think as a coalition, we're excited at the potential. We, standing here as both a citizen and the president of the coalition, and thinking of our youth, and also hearing some very insightful discussion. I do think long-term planning is important. I do think rapid, low impact, where we get a turnaround on any investment we make on it. I was here at the county commission meeting. I know money is tough everywhere we look. We have the building, and getting some use out of it quickly and getting some return on that investment, I think, is important. As a coalition, we're excited to have as much access by all families, all children, elder to young, be the focus of the property itself, and multi-use. And a lot of discussion we've had is whatever we do develop there, a lot of our kids go out of the county to participate. We have a lot of excellent youth in our county, and they seem to always have to travel somewhere else to participate in some activity that is hosting a 2-day or a 3-day tournament. And it would be lovely to see people coming to our community and spending money in our community and staying in our hotels and going to our restaurants with our youth and our parents, hosting both meetings, conferences, education, sporting activities, and a variety of activities that we could eventually see come to that property. So, thank you very much.
I'm Shelley Swinson, and I work for the University of Florida IFAS, and I just want to remind you that we have a memorandum of understanding that involves upkeep on the IFAS building as well. I've been nervous ever since I knew that the community center was going to be opening, because I would love to give you a tour of our facility and have you note the things that are really needing some attention. We had a meeting of the coalition the other day at the building, and the air conditioning could just not keep up with the demand. Our air conditioning is out of date. We don't have the kitchen facilities to do the proper preservation classes, so I would hope that that will be somewhere. We had a meeting where a county commissioner went back to get a drink in the back of the room, and a cupboard door fell off on his foot. That's the state that we're in. Remember, we don't even have custodial staff. So as you look forward to the community center, know that the library and the UF IFAS building is sitting there asking for your consideration as well.
Thanks. I have a question I had, and this is what I started to allude to earlier, and I was broaching it. In the past, the library and the IFAS Center have worked as sort of our community centers, and one of the questions that when we're asking is just finding out, because if something like this kitchen is better suited to IFAS, and it's going to cost us $200,000 to do the renovations to that building, and we can't really build anything else with the money for $100,000, but we can put in a $50,000 kitchen at IFAS and fix some of their problems, and all we have to do is say Wakulla County IFAS Extension Office and Community Center on the sign. I'd like us to consider doing something like that versus losing the money.
Thank you.
If IFAS would be willing to consider having the word Community Center added to their building. Shelley?
Problem, but of course, I would need to ask more questions.
Yeah, thank you.
My name is Pam Mueller. I'm
Please speak, yeah.
president of Volunteer Wakulla, and you have graciously offered Volunteer Wakulla office space at the community center, which we really do appreciate. What we'd like to do there is become a vibrant volunteer center. We're in the process of applying for a grant that would give us somebody to staff the building and to help put together programs that will help the economically stressed people in the county and the youth at risk in the county. And I think that all of the programs that we've been talking about and the things that we've been talking about are great. We'd like to help you create tutoring the after school programs and try and staff that with volunteers. And I think that that's something that can happen. I think, what was it on the survey, over 300 people said that they would be willing to volunteer their time at the community center. So we need to tap into those people and help the youth in the community and help the lower income population in the community. And I think the kitchen's a great idea for parenting classes, cooking classes, food preparation classes, all kinds of things that people can better themselves if they learn. And I think the YMCA can help make that happen too. You know, I think we can all work together for that, but I would like to see a big role for volunteers there. And I think you can get volunteers to help build your walking trail. Why can't we ask for volunteers to do that? It's all free, and then we're not paying quite so much. And I think that's a part of the program that we need to do, is look at how much volunteer labor we can get, whether it be businesses or individual people. Thank you.
Thanks.
Actually, it's pretty simple. It seems to me that what we really are missing is, we have a lot of facilities that we could use for sports and recreation. We have a lot of gymnasiums, like you pointed out, but we really don't have any good performance venue for musicians, plays, that type of thing. And I think this is something that would really be a draw, because if you could get some good performances, we have some really, I like to go to Grant Peoples' performances, and last one was at the venue at the Ag Center, and that's just I've been to Dixie Theater, but there's, a really good performance area would be probably a real draw for nighttime activities for both young and old.
And I think the large room can be used for that.
Probably needs to.
Ralph Thomas, 637 Hunter's Trace. I guess cost is always the big concern, and we certainly need to figure out some way to use this money or lose it. And so it seems like that should be the main focus. Let's just concentrate on that first. But also, I'm concerned we've got a survey with 600 folks or so that have good input and probably a good representation of what a lot of folks would say, but whether or not the majority will participate. Is there any way, I understand YMCA would charge a membership fee, is there any way to get people to sign up and maybe pre-sell the membership fee, come up with a concept, this is what we're planning on offering, this is what we're planning on building, now let's pre-sell membership fees and let's use that as a fundraiser to turn around and get people to put their money where their mouth is, and let's if it's important and we're willing to back it and we're willing to pay for it. And I have a membership, my family has had one for years with the Y, so I'm supportive of that, but let's see if we can raise that money to see if the interest goes beyond just filling out blocks on a survey. Is that possible?
Well, I mean, we could try to do fundraisers. I think most people aren't going to want to pay a membership fee unless they can actually partake of activities or services or, do something for their membership.
Kind of seed money that we can see if the interest is there. If we're gonna sell a pool, we're gonna let them know we're gonna build a pool, but we need funds to build the pool. Let's pre-sell membership. And I'm just assuming that money could go toward that purpose. I don't know that. But at least we would know if the checkbooks come out once the services show up. We'd kind of know that before the brick and mortar is there.
Well, we can look into it. Are you volunteering to head up fundraising for the pool?
I think a pool would be a great idea.
I do too.
We've needed one for years, no doubt about it. But we've got to be able to pay for it. It always comes back down to the cost. And if we can't afford to pay for it, man it, staff it, maintain it, then it's another black hole for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got the, I'm not sure we've come to any conclusions to give anybody any marching orders.
Alan, do you want to come sum up what you heard?
What I understand my marching orders to be is to look at these existing buildings. The one that used to be a church, let's look at opening it up as a multi-use room, maybe taking everything out except for the restrooms and a storage room. As we're taking things apart, maybe looking at that stage, maybe that's something we can keep against one end and use it as a performance area and not, depending on what that stage looks like. The other building, what I'm hearing is a kid zone is going to be necessary. Maybe we have too much office space. Open some of those up for maybe some group fitness areas, yoga, Zumba, whatever, and keep a storage area, and depending on the room situation and the money situation at that point, we look at either a commercial kitchen in this building or maybe at IFAS, and then figure out how much all that's going to cost and come talk to you guys.
I'd say maximize the 292 on the existing building within the scope of the grant. That's 393 is what you're doing?
392.
And I will reach out to federal government again to see if I can get any more specifics on what they'll accept. I think basically what you do is you have to put it together and submit it to them, and they'll probably pick out things they're not going to accept. So, but I can get some more information, and when Alan brings that back, we'll put more clarity.
Yeah, and I think the suggestion was made maybe to look at putting solar PV on it, if that'll work. And then if some of these low-cost items, that can be done quickly, either if they can be done with the 392, or if we come back with a proposal for the board to use some of the sales tax or impact fee money for.
And what I'm hearing, the top choices for some of those may be playground equipment, the walking trail, and the gardens.
Yeah. And what timeline are you? If we can start moving on some of that, because we have that money, we control how that money is spent. Long as it's,
Start that soon.
we can start that soon and help get ready for the Y when they come in, and people can start walking trails as soon as they're built. So
Yeah.
the more expedited, the
We're
better.
not blowing off another priority. That'd be my only comment.
We got a lot of impact fee money that needs to be spent, or else we're going to lose it. I can tell you that. It's categorical money. I know that doesn't make sense to the citizens here. We are talking about not having money, but we have large sums of money we can't spend that are just categorical. It's restricted.
That'd be a grid tie solar too, not a standalone.
I'll talk with you about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
That good?
Yeah.
All right, so we're through with that workshop. We'll move to
Thank you,
the
guys.
Thank you.